Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel, Augusto Argandoña Fine Arts. Anytime in this narrated tutorial, you can click on the subscribe button to subscribe to my channel. And I would also appreciate if you can send me some comments about this particular video that I'm about to do, or for that matter, some of the other or all of the other videos in my channel. If you want to learn about my virtual classes or want to see my paintings, you may do so in my website at aafinearts.com. This tutorial is one more in my series of tutorials about painting a beach scene with watercolors. This particular scene is one of the coast here on the Gulf Coast of Southwest Florida, and it's a very picturesque location. I'm going to show quite a bit of the water in this area. Most of the painting, the composition is kind of a diagonal. All of these lines are going towards the focal area, which will be over here, these buildings, and there's some tropical vegetation, and of course the coconut palm trees. And there will be some beach grasses in this area. And I may or may not put some people in the scene. I don't know yet. I'll figure that out after as I'm almost finishing the painting. So without much ado, let's go ahead and do the fun part of this tutorial, and that's the painting part. Get myself positioned on my drawing table here, and so here we go. I'm gonna do a fairly quick and simple sky. There will be some cloud areas, very minimal. For the most part, it will be fairly blue. And I'm using a 140-pound cold press paper. I'm gonna just add a little bit of water into some areas of the sky, like that. My paper of preference is 140-pound cold press. I'm gonna bring a little bit of water right just above the horizon line, like that there. Put a little bit of water here too, a little bit more over here, and that's about it. And I'm gonna make a mixture of manganese blue with ultramarine, which makes a really beautiful blue, ideally suited for sky colors. So I'm just adding a little bit of pigment here. Where the paper is dry, it will be crisp, and where the paper is wet, it will be soft edges, like that. Maybe a little bit on the horizon. I'm going to close that space there. A little bit over here. Like that. Get rid of those edges. And that's pretty much it for the sky. Get rid of that edge too. There we are. I think I'm gonna close this area with a very light wash of the blue, almost white, for that distance. And that's pretty much it for the sky. We'll get rid of that too. While that is drying, I'm gonna go ahead and do the sand area. I'm gonna have quite a bit of water for the areas where the sand will be. And some vegetation, but mostly the sand This particular beach is not as white as Siesta Key or some of the other beaches in the Sarasota area. This beach is, further south. And so the beaches in the Sarasota area, primarily Siesta Key, are really beautiful. The sand is bright white. It's like salt or sugar. And that's on Siesta Beach. The sand has the consistency of talcum powder because it's a pretty high percentage of ground quartz crystal. Okay, so now that that's wet, I'm gonna make a light mixture of brown matter and ultramarine, but mostly the ultramarine. And with that, I'm gonna just add a few strokes of this color, like that. I'm gonna also bring a little bit of burnt sienna into that mixture, warm up some of this. The original gray is kind of cool. Now it needs a little bit of a warmer gray here. And that's pretty much it for the sand. There, like that. I'm gonna bring some of that over here. There'll be sort of like a crescent shape area. I'm gonna bring some of that over here too. And that's it for the sand. I'm gonna let that dry. I'm looking at the sky, and what's happening here is, see, because of the paper that I'm using, I didn't stretch the paper, I didn't soak it first, so the sizing has not been removed. And see what happens here. This is what I call happy accidents. There's one there, and there's another one over here, and one over here, where because my board is a slight angle downwards, I would expect the pigment to move downwards, but in this case it's moving upwards, so which is really interesting, and that creates a very nice effect. I can remove that, but I'd rather leave it because I kind of like it. It's pretty nice, pretty interesting. So now I'm going to test the sky is still damp. This is damp. So I'm going to go ahead and do those buildings, those houses. So for that, I'm going to use a smaller round brush. I'm going to use this brush. This is a beautiful brush. It holds a lot of water, a lot of pigment, and it also has a very, very fine point, which is ideally suited for small areas and detail work. So with that, I'm going to do those buildings. I think one of the buildings it's sort of a kind of a peach color. I think I might do some of that. And the other one is pretty much white. And I'm going to use a little bit of the brown matter and a little touch of sepia and cobalt blue for a grayish type roof. There we are. This will have a gray roof. So come down like that. There we are. This is a really beautiful brush. I'm not going to say the name of it or the manufacturer because well, I'm just not going to say it. And I'm going to add a little bit more cobalt blue to that mixture and make this other roof a little lighter. There we are. And so those buildings are pretty much, the roof and those buildings pretty much done. The peach color one, the house that's peach color, I'm going to change brushes. It's very small round. So for that peach color, I'm going to use yellow ochre, primarily yellow ochre, and a little bit of rose madder. And do that over here like that. And that over here. Like that. And the other one is white, but the other building is white, but I'm going to use a little bit of sepia with the cobalt blue. I think I'm going to add a little bit of manganese blue to that. Maybe I'll change brushes again. Yeah, this will be much better. There we are. Getting a little bit of the shade. There. Also going to bring a little bit of the yellow ochre to it. Warm it up a little bit. There we are. There. There's going to be some railing there too, so I'm going to wait for that to dry. While that's drying, I'm also going to do that, those steps that leading down to the beach. Yeah, like that. Is this dry? Yep, that's dry. Okay, good. So now that every part of the paper is pretty much dry, I'm gonna go ahead and do all the dark areas, which will be the greenery, before I do anything else. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add a little bit of water to this area. There's some green areas and grasses and vegetation, some landscaping around in front of these houses. So I'm going to do those very kind of soft. So that's what I'm adding water here. In a soft manner. Drag some of the water right into the sand area. There. Then I'm going to make a mixture of probably raw sienna. Let's see this. I have to put some raw sienna on my palette. I have to find the raw sienna. I should have checked that before. There's my raw sienna. But I have enough for this greenery. I have enough in my palette. So I'm going to use a little bit of raw sienna, aureole in yellow, primarily the raw sienna, and a little bit of cerulean blue. I'm going to bring some of those colors here, right onto the sand, like that. Paper's drying, so I'm gonna I'll have to wet it again. There we are. A bit more of the raw sienna with a little bit of green. Bring some of that over here too. Okay. Now I got the raw sienna, so I'm going to put some of that in my palette. There we are. Here comes the raw sienna with the cerulean blue. A little bit of the aureolin yellow mixed there. Intensify some of these colors. There's a lot of very tropical colors in these grasses. Now I'm going to bring in some undersea green with that raw sienna and make it this a little much darker, and start doing the effects of the vegetation that's by these houses. Like I said, this is a beautiful brush. It allows you to do very broad strokes as well as very fine strokes like I'm doing right now. Like that. A little bit more water to that area, and then just drag those colors right into the sand, like that. Also, I'm going to change brushes again, small brush, and pick up some aureolin yellow. I'll change to new gamboge, which is a much stronger yellow, with permanent sap green. And there's some of these palm trees, these coconut palms. Like that. Maybe I'll change brushes again. I don't know what I'm going to use. My favorite brush. I'm going to use some of that green, a little bit of undersea green in that. And here we go. There. These coconut palms are blowing in the breeze. A little bit more of the undersea green and the new gamboge, and we'll bring some of the darker colors here too. There we are. Beautiful brush. Like that. Because we're looking towards the sky, I'm going to darken those areas too. With much darker green. Okay, those palm trees are pretty much done. So now I'm gonna block that whole area to create that the greenery. For that, I'm gonna use a little bit more raw sienna on this green. And before I do that, I'm gonna add a little bit of water to some of these areas. A little bit of color there. And then bring those colors blocking this building like that. And more of the new gambos with a different type of green. A little darker. You have to block these areas where the buildings are. There we are. Make that area a little darker too. We'll bring in some ultramarine into that, tone down those colors. Get a entirely different type of green to this area and block this roof. There we are. Go back to the raw sienna. Add a little bit of sepia to it and paints gray. I'll start really darkening some of these areas to make this building stand out. Like that. There we go. Right at the edge of that post. There we are. And come over here and do a little bit of a very light touch. But give it an effect of some palm trees there, smaller palm trees in that area, making this area kind of dark. There we are. While I have those colors, I'm going to darken some of the areas over here too, and give a little bit more shape to some of these trees, especially blocking this area there. A little bit more over here too, a little darker colors. Some over here. There we are. That's it. Now I'm gonna add some water to this area again. Blend that right into that. Add some water here. Some water over there, and bring some of those colors, kind of opaque, brownish color right into this area like that. And a little bit of the darker green, but not as dark as that. Make it opaque a little bit more. Some areas with a little bit of sepia, and on the sea green. Just like that. Okay. So now I'm going to change brushes, and I'm going to bring a little bit of water over here. Like that. And I'm going to make a nice mixture of raw sienna with cerulean blue. I'm bringing some of those colors right into this area on that wet paper. With the paper is wet, it'll be nice and soft. When the paper is dry, it'll be kind of crisp like this. I'm going to combine some of this over here too. We'll drag that color here. A little bit more of the raw sienna. And the green that's already in my palette. Like that, there. Okay, I'm gonna let that dry. As it begins to dry, I'm gonna add more of the color and start intensifying those colors. I'm going to add a little bit of cerulean blue and aureolin yellow to that mixture. But still, where the paper is damp, like that. There we are. More of that over here, there. So now, I clean my brush. I change brushes to a cleaner, flat brush. I'm going to pick up a little bit of cobalt turquoise, mix it with a very light touch of raw sienna. And for the color of this is dry, yeah. The color of the Gulf of Mexico. There we are. Leave a few areas white for the crest of the waves that are breaking. And bring that right down over here to the water, to the edge, right by the sand. Like I said, leave a little bit of the white there. And we'll bring a little bit more of that aqua color. It's a real beautiful color. And the waters we are here on southwest Florida, on the Gulf of Mexico, are really gorgeous colors. A little bit more of the greenish tone. There, like that. Now I'm also going to bring in some ultramarine blue, and with pretty much a dry brush, I'm going to add that ultramarine to the horizon. Like that. And remove the moisture from my brush and kind of blend that blue into some areas. Just giving a little bit more movement to the water. Like that. There. And the water is pretty much done. While this is beginning to dry, I'm going to make a nice mixture of, this time, raw amber. I'm going to change from raw sienna to raw amber with the cerulean blue. And pretty much with a dry brush, I'm going to separate the bristles like this. My brush is fairly dry. and add some grasses, holding the brush about halfway, like that. See, it's a beautiful effect. Just a little few touches here and there, kind of give it a little bit of texture, increase the value of those colors, and do the same thing over here where it's closer to the viewer. Make these taller grasses over here. There we are. Increase the value of that color again. I'm going to add a little bit of ultramarine blue to that to kind of tone it down and make it a little darker also. And bring some of those colors over here into the sand in smaller strokes, like that. Some over here too. Just a few touches. I'm going to increase that color. I'm going to bring in a little bit of sepia to it. Make some of this grasses a little darker over here. A little bit more ultramarine. There we are. Few of the taller grasses there. Much there. That's pretty much it. I think I'm going to increase the value of some of this greenery with a little bit of undersea green. And add some of those darker grasses over here. There. And since I have those colors, I'm going to also do a little bit of a texturing over here. I know it's quite a bit of distance, but that looks really good. Some of that, same thing over here. Get some of the darker areas. Very light, just barely touching the paper, like that. There. Okay. I'm going to clean my brush, and I'm going to use some of those colors that I have in my palette already. Some of the ultramarine with raw amber, and give a little bit of a shape to some of this greenery, kind of dull greenery, there, like that. Okay, so now I'm going to change brushes again, and I'm going to use some burnt umber. Very fine burnt umber with a little bit of mineral violet. And there's some rocks over here too. You know, you don't see rocks really in Florida, except a few areas, rocks that have been placed there. So there's nothing natural. They've been placed there. There. Yeah, like that. I'm going to bring a little bit of sepia to that. Why did they place rocks? I have no idea. Put a little bit over here too. Yeah, like that. Yeah. And take advantage of those colors. And I'll put a little bit of this, a little bit of a ramp here, steps, there, like that. now I'm gonna get my smaller brush and finish those buildings. I'm gonna pick up the colors, a little sepia, a little bit of burnt umber, and do that railing here. A little bit more water in my brush. There we go. Yeah. I also do the columns. Those columns are white. This one. These are wood, they're darker. Another column over here, another over here. There, like that. I'm going to pick up some of the green. And over here, you can see some of the green on the other side of that porch. There we are. There. Like that. There's a column there too. And I'm going to make that lighter. Bring a little bit of the green over here too. There, like that. And I also take advantage of the blue that's in my palette. That mixed with a little bit of brown matter. And do the shadow portion of this and this porch. I think I'm going to change brushes for that, a small brush. Here we are. There. There, make that darker. There. A little bit of brown matter here. Make those areas darker. There we are. A little bit of sepia by itself and darken some of these areas in this railing. There. There we are. A little bit of ultramarine to that sepia. And do the doors and windows. Yeah. And now I'm going to finish up this roof like that. This one side of that roof should be cooler. Yeah, like that. Same thing here. Okay, so those houses are done. Now I'm going to get my flat brush again. This is dry now, so I'm going to add a little bit of water over here and do the wet sand. Where the water hits the sand is going to be kind of wet. So I'm gonna add a little bit of a sepia and burnt umber here. I don't want water there. There, like that. Also gonna add a little bit of cobalt blue to that. There, like that. And now pick up a little bit of the brown matter, a little bit of sepia, mix it really good. Add some ultramarine to that. And with almost a dry brush, I'm going to give a little bit more texture to this sand. Like that. In fact, what I'm going to do here is do this too. Get a very fine texture to the sand. There. Touch a little bit of that over here. Like that. And lastly, I will add a little bit more of the cobalt blue to the water in this area. Just a touch. Just to give the little more dimension to the water as it's breaking it onto the sand. And I was gonna put people in it, but I think I'm going to just leave it alone. But one thing that I will do is I'm gonna put the ever-present seagulls. There's always seagulls here. Like that. Some are just little dots in the sky. That's it. And so lastly, we get some of this brownish grayish tone. Get some trunks to these coconut palm trees. There we are. I'll leave that there like that. And that's it for the painting. So I will remove this tape. I'm going to bring a dark board so you will be able to get a better feel of what this looks like. See that beautiful color of the Gulf of Mexico. Especially in the summer, it is gorgeous. Here comes the dark board. And I'm going to minimize it. And there it is. A beach scene, private beach looks like. The Gulf of Mexico here in Southwest Florida. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed my painting. And please visit my website at aafinearts.com, where you will see information about my classes and a selection of my paintings and prints. Until next time.